Newsflash to you, gay people been existing. You have the inability to read and write when it comes to situations that deal with gender and sex, and as a result, you feel me, you usually try to get people lost in the sauce in your illiteracy. And I think that when you living in 2022 and you want to act like the Proud and Prouder family, you want to act like the representations on TV right now showing trans people and gay people on TV is too much for your kids, I don't think you recognize the world your kids live in. I got a shirt on today because last thing I tried to play me. As a parent, you feel me? Someone that is also cisgender and straight as a parent. Because, you know, some parents ain't cisgender and some parents ain't straight. It annoys me when I see other parents trying to weaponize their kids' representation against the existence of gay people. You know, a lot of y'all don't understand the difference between sex and gender, and y'all will find yourselves in the conversation really spitting a whole bunch of gender illiteracy. Sexual illiteracy. I don't think you recognize that your kid is already being exposed to different types of gender representations and different understandings of sexuality. Recently, there was a video, there was a Facebook post that went viral that was criticizing the Proud and Prouder family, saying that it is pushing homosexuality to our kids. And you know, that's the claim. The warrant was, you know, they have a dad couple on there, you know, two gay men. They had an episode about Makeup Boy, you know, and you guessed it. It was about, you know, a boy that's an influencer that also did makeup. This video went viral, and of course, it was structured in the idea of saying, "Oh, I can't stand Babylon." What I know when it comes to being pro-black, and I'm gonna say this with all of my chest and make sure I say this and I stand on this, and anybody want to debate about it or whatever, shit, we can set that debate up. You can't be pro-black when you copying and repasting colonial ideas of gender and sexuality. As a straight cisgender black man, I'm proud of the skin that I am. I'm comfortable in the skin I'm in. I don't feel intimidated or emasculated by the presence of LGBTQ, same gender loving, non-straight shit. You see what I'm saying? I'm comfortable in who I am and what I got going on. I think that a lot of people will allow for their insecurities to be projected on to other people's realities because you insecure with the way that you live your reality and you are jealous of other people being more secure in the way they live their reality. What I'm not trying to do right now is slide into any homophobic in your windows. Gender is a social construct. What this means is that depending on what part of society you're going to and what part of history you're going to, there's going to be a different construct of gender. That is an empirical fact, facts over feelings, research over me search. And Kemet, Akibalan, or even if you want to go to, you know what I'm saying, Israel, you know what I'm saying, and you want to be a Hebrew Israelite. Listen, before Europeans got to this place right here, all these places, there was a different understanding and different construction of gender. One that is not what it is today when we think of gender always already being binary. The cosmetic industry got a significant population, a part of it, that's men, you feel me? I know a lot of gay men that are into makeup. I know some gay men influencers that are, they got a big following in terms of doing makeup. You know, if you living in 2022, ain't no need for you to fake the funk with your kids and act like, you know, what you believe in is the only thing they should be seeing. To me, that sounds like bad parenting. I'm a father with 2 kids. You know what I'm saying? I got a daughter and a son. My daughter personally loves Makeup Boy episode, and I don't see no issue with it at all. I think it's important that my daughter gets different depictions of masculinity and gets different depiction of what it means to be happy. It's important that my daughter don't get lost in the sauce and heteronormativity, where she believes that all boys should be straight and all women should be straight. It's important that my daughter believes and recognizes, it's important that my daughter recognizes that all boys are not into trucks and cars and video games. It's important to me that my daughter recognizes that at 5 years old. I want my daughter to already understand the multiplicity in race, class, gender, ability, and sexuality. And for intended purposes of this video right here, I want my daughter to recognize that there are various ways of people to love. A lot of times I think that us as straight people, we start to show our privilege because we are really ignore how us growing up throughout our lives, seeing different depictions of heterosexual relationships shows us different examples of what we should be wanting for or what we don't want. You feel me? And for different people, it's different shit, but we recognize seeing different depictions of heterosexual relationships allows for you to start to really make a model for what you like and what you don't like in a relationship. I think that if gay people or gender fluid people are forced to always think about how they love other people in a heterosexual frame, it's not good for nobody. The straight agenda is the agenda that allows people to become depressed and have anxiety around their own identity because it doesn't fit within the straight agenda. When people bring up that Proud Family or Spider-Man got a new gay character or whatever TV show they feel like got gay characters now and they mess something up and why they got to put gayness everywhere and all this, that, and the other. To me, you are exposing the straight agenda. The straight agenda is the agenda that forces people into closets. The straight agenda is the agenda that excludes people from institutions and organizations. A lot of people is going to fold these new representations of gayness or homosexuality or the LGBT community as them quote unquote pushing it to kids. I want to make another argument right now though. You feel me? This dialogue. The presence of something does not equal something being pushed. The presence of something does not mean it is being pushed. The presence of Black people politically, socially, economically, we exist. We are present in those realms. We are not being pushed politically, socially, economically. You see what I'm saying? There are different systems in place like capitalism, like neoliberalism, you feel me, that allow for different entities to take the pain, suffering, progression of Black people and they able to monetize that. We don't get no bread from that. We understand that as being used and abused. We understand that it's being commodified, it's being extorted, it's being exploited. You see what I'm saying? It's performative activism. A lot of us got to be able to recognize when it comes to a lot of the presence of shit in the LGBT community, it really be performative activism, or it literally just merely be a presence of some LGBTQ shit so this brand, this company can open up to a new market. It don't mean they care about the market. You see what I'm saying? Just like we know when Apple was selling RBG, red, black, and green flag AirPods, or mean that now Apple was for the liberation or the independence of Black people. That means that they recognize there is a market for them to monetize how people, Black people uniquely, want to be able to buy things that represent our symbols, represents our identities. To me, I feel like when it comes to seeing a lot of things in the LGBT community, when it comes to representations, everything that glitters ain't gold. And I think that us as Black people, we be being facetious and not be being real when we just be like, man, they pushing it on us, man. They about to just make it where we can't even choose, man. I ain't got no problem with the gays, but do we have to watch y'all on TV? I ain't got no problem with the LGBT community, but do y'all have to be on books? I don't have no problem. It's like, to me, I start to recognize how power operates. There's no gay agenda. I can recognize there's different ways that corporations and capitalism have monetized the existence or the struggle of LGBT community. But I think that something being commodified and something being, pushed is not the same thing. I think that the Black experience is something that's also commodified, but it's not being pushed. It's only being pushed for commodity and monetization of particular people and making sure that the money ain't getting to particular people. You feel me? We can make criticisms about how the LGBT community is ultimately ran by a bunch of gay white men. You feel me? You can make those criticisms about how white supremacy is also a structuring thing for when it comes to the power hierarchy in the LGBT community. I know that in my undergraduate degree of African American studies, when you're reading about integration, and you start thinking about the ways in which white people backlash from seeing Black representations on TV, in swimming pools, in classrooms, they said a lot of the same things. The hubris of white supremacy operates off of centering negation. White supremacy, to me, operates in many different ways off of being able to center something in pure negation. When we start thinking about how great the production of Proud and Prouder Family is, and people want to reduce it to centering it around negating homosexuality or negating transgender people, to me, it's the same hubris of white supremacy. It's the same hubris of thinking that said white people would be like, I don't have no problem with the Negroes, but do my kids have to, be on side of them? I don't have no problem with the Negroes, but do I have to share water fountains with them? I think it's the same logic. You see what I'm saying? And I want to be clear, not conflating race with gender. Intersectionality lets you know, like you're watching Proud and Proud Family, gay Black people exist. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not just dry ass making a surface level analysis that's trying to compare these two things, which erases gay Black people or erases non-straight Black people. I'm merely making an analysis about how power operates and how modes of thinking operate in terms of negation, inclusion, and value. And what I know is that a lot of people in my community are lost in the sauce of white supremacy because you've copied and pasted these real rigid ass ways that white supremacy say things are valid or not valid. You see what I'm saying? Like, hey, a lot of us be lost in the sauce of production and value. Meaning that we only see our identities being measured by our production, which is how we get our value. I think that's a bad way of understanding humanity because it forces us to always be locked into this dehumanizing way of relating to each other that says, I don't give a damn who you are or what you are. It's all about how productive you are and how much value you bring to me. A lot of times is where people can be ableist, you feel me? Or people can be sexist, or in this instance, you see how people can be heteronormative or homophobic. And two, for the people in the crowd that say this, I ain't homophobic, I ain't scared of them, I ain't worried about them. This is the perfect example that shows the narrative of how fear really structures a lot of, how fear really influences a lot of y'all dispositions. If you try to weaponize the existence of kids against the representation of LGBTQ in media, you are evoking fear. You are saying they trying to push this on our kids as if the LGBT community are trying to make kids gay. To me, I think it's important as a straight person, I recognize real early when I start getting in the literature and start having meaningful conversations, the LGBT community is not trying to turn no kids gay. They're not trying to turn no kids out. They're merely trying to make it where kids can be adults and be in that community. I'm gonna unpackage that. Research over me search will allow for us to see that there is a huge impact on the mental depression and anxiety and literally people taking their lives when we talk about how people put violence onto bodies, especially when we're talking about heteronormativity and homophobia. A lot of Black, trans, queer kids don't live to be adults because they get A, executed, or B, they take themselves out due to mental health. So a lot of times when we're thinking about the representations of the LGBT community in, in media, it's important that we keep it a stack and be real about the shit. I think that people just want to be able to exist and live their lives. That's it. You want to give white supremacy way more power than it has. I recognize that before European engagement in Africa and in the Americas, it was already different ideas of sexuality and gender. And some tribes that practice it up to like 5 genders, and they didn't give you a gender until you was like 4 or 5 years old. You see what I'm saying? I know when I was growing up, I got gay cousins that they was discouraged from being gay from the time they started performing femininity. And right now to this day, they gay. I grew up in Bryan, College Station, Texas. From the time I could remember and understand what gender and sexuality was, I can always think about there was a trans person in my hood or a Black gay man or a Black lesbian in my hood. So to me, I feel like it's facetious for my parents if they want to act like, man, I don't want Lil George, my real name George. And I don't want Lil George to be seeing all this shit because of XYZ on TV. It's like, hey, mama, Tony that live around the corner, y'all call him Punk Tony. You don't think I conscious enough to recognize what y'all talking about? You see what I'm saying? That's really a person that used to live. What I'm talking about, to me, it be people faking the funk when you want to act like these things haven't always already been a part of our existence. So if your argument goes, no, it's not, I ain't denying that it's been existing, that is pushing it now. A lot of my fellow straight people is just mad and pissed off that we no longer live in the times for you to call people slurs and get away with it. It's really what it comes down to. You miss the old times where you could just throw out a gay slur and just be cool. I don't like that. That's gay. And you miss a time where you were able to not be held accountable for just pissing people off and or dehumanizing people. A lot of times I see it the same way when people say make America great again, they wish the old times where they were able to just be unwarranted bigots. Where you were able to be discriminatory and you feel me, you'll be able to say, Black person, know your place, woman, go to the kitchen, and gay person, go back to the closet. I feel like a lot of times when I say that gender construct, when I say social constructs, I'm talking about those 3 things right there, how it came from a particular ideology. To me, what it means to be an independent thinker is thinking about everything from multiple different perspectives and making it where nothing is absolute and kind of everything is questionable. And I feel like when you start to think about the world from that perspective, it'll open you up to different ideas and different ways of thinking about the world. And to make it where because nothing is absolute and everything is questionable, even when you reach a point, you still can evoke that, but this ain't absolute. It's still questionable. To me, I feel like, man, if some of us ain't free, then none of us is free. When we talk about the black community, it's important that you don't forefront production. You see what I'm saying? I know a lot of straight people that's not good parents. I know a lot of non-straight people that I think would be amazing parents. I know a lot of non-straight people that are amazing parents as well. When I talk about being lost in the sauce of white supremacy, Massa is the one that taught us that we only have value based off of what we can produce. You feel me? On the plantation, we ain't had no value outside of what we could bring to the plantation. We can't have that same hubris of thinking when we start to value what's supposed to be in our community and outside of our community. It's a lot of cisgender straight people that cannot reproduce. You feel me? It's a lot of black people it's a lot of people throughout the archive of black folks that didn't have kids. But we would say they were able to put forth a lot in the black community. There are a lot of black leaders throughout our time that did not have kids. We would not denigrate their legacy and say they don't mean nothing because they wasn't able to reproduce. A lot of times folks will get real trivial when they start talking about the LGBT community and you fold it in some shit about being pro-black and you fold it into being about, you feel me, black liberation. Well, you say, well, they're not good for the black community because they can't create more black babies. That idea also goes towards black straight people that either A, cannot reproduce, or B, that do not want to reproduce. If some of us ain't free, then none of us is free. Is recognizing those cut and dry ways that you believe this is the good productive way to be black and this is not the good productive way to be black. A lot of times you really be perpetuating white supremacy. I know as a black kid, well, my history is always the elective and not the core curriculum. I know what message that sends to me as a black kid. Think about what message we sending to queer kids during sex education if they only learn about doing the deed from a heterosexual lens. And recognize this too. Being heterosexual don't automatically make you mean you heteronormative. You feel me? A lot of us have to understand the ways that we've been indoctrinated and to being heteronormative. But just because you are heterosexual don't necessarily mean you gotta be heteronormative. You know what I'm saying? There's ways you can try to educate yourself out of being ignorant, educate yourself out of being a bigot. You feel me? You can unlearn, relearn, unprogram, deprogram, reprogram. Older generations will be like, back in my day, the men were men and the men were men and the women were women. They'd be like, back in my day, the men dressed like men and the women dressed like women. And it's like you pull up a picture or some videos of Rick James or the Ozzy brothers. They got on thigh-high waist boots and makeup and high heels. You feel me? You bring up Prince and he got his ass out. It showed a lot of cap. And it showed how a lot of the way that gender goes is real fluid anyway. You see what I'm saying? And it showed how people be having selective memories. You see what I mean? If you seen a depiction in a cartoon of Prince and you know it was Prince, you probably would be like, man, they pushing homosexuality. But back in the 80s, I don't go back to the archive or go back and look at, you know what I'm saying, ask my mama and daddy and my grandma and them, they ain't talking about like that. So again, it showed a lot of cap in y'all rap, man. Show y'all be lying. So you be lying. So you be lying. You know? It's important too. The difference between sex and gender is sex is tied to your chromosomes. It's also important to recognize, and you can look this up, it's more than two combinations of chromosomes. It's more than XX and XY, but that's sex. Gender is more tied to performance. Gender is more tied to literally what you identify yourself as and what you know what I'm saying, kind of show people. You know what I'm saying? I always bring this up as an example. when we were growing up as kids, especially a lot of us millennials, it was a very heteronormative stereotype going around about Sierra, you feel me? That people would use the term hermaphrodite, but I've learned that that is a slur. The correct term is intersex. When you look at the different combinations of intersex people, you know what I'm saying, we can see how the combination in terms of sex is more than X, Y, and XX. And also shows you that historically speaking, when we only see gender as being a binary, it creates violence against those other genders that do not fit neatly into the XXXY, you know what I'm saying, little predetermined little boxes that we didn't create. When you look up the history of intersex, you see a lot of different doctors making their own decisions on what gender to give a child based off of what was easier for them to manipulate. Kid come out the womb and they might have, you know, some testicles and ovaries. So they cut the testicles off because it was easy and they left the ovaries in, this, that, and the other. And now the kid is, you know what I'm saying, going through all different type of issues. A lot of people will also try to bring up the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistic Manual, and say that a homosexuality is a mental illness. The people that say that, I challenge you to step out of this archaic understanding of mental health and for you to see all of the new criticisms and recognize how that was a way for them to trivialize, you know, that identity. I also recognize that draped ammonia was also, you know what I'm saying, a part of that system of the DSM, which said that if slaves tried to run away, it was something wrong with them. They had mental illness. Because why would a slave want to run away from a plantation? You know what I'm saying? The plantation treated them so well. About to get a little explicit real fast. The first time you were aroused, who told you to be aroused? Who told you to be turned on? Did you make that decision, or did your body physiologically kind of just react the way it wanted to? And think about if you were experiencing being turned on in ways that the world told you should not be turned on. And now think about how crazy you sound when you say that homosexuality is being pushed on to kids. All of my lesbian, gay cousins grew up in heterosexual households, but somehow they still ended up gay. Think about it. Your logic is based in fallacy that says that if kids see gay shit, kids will then be gay. It's cap. A lot of cap in that rap. But it's in terms of like liberation and blackness. There's a lot of different gay, lesbian, trans figures that was tooth and nail about the liberation of the black community, politically, socioeconomically. From Marsha Payne No Mind Johnson, the black woman that literally created, you know what I'm saying, the Pride movement, or whether we talking about, you know, James Baldwin, one of the greatest minds one of the greatest minds America has ever created in terms of intellectuals. All about liberation of black people and independence of black people. A lot of times when you are being heteronormative, or you being homophobic, or you being transphobic, you're excluding a lot of people that's contributed and that's contributing to the black struggle right now. When you think about Black Lives Matter, regardless of your criticisms about how they did their money or what they got going on with their money, it is undeniable how non-straight people rallied around Black Lives Matter and made it what it is. You feel me? It's undeniable about how many black lesbians and black trans people went out the bat and marched and rallied and got thrown in jail behind Breonna Taylor and behind, you feel me, George Floyd. I'm gonna be real with y'all though. If you can't think of black trans or a black gay person that's been murdered by the police, think about why. Because they also being knocked out. You know what I'm saying? Also being exterminated by them as well. But it's because our community is less to rally around the humanity of a gay person or a trans person. You feel me? If your kid on the internet in this day and age, and you don't think they already seeing a whole bunch of trans representations and gender fluid representations and intersex representations, I think that you like, you know what I'm saying? You naive. You're naive. Get over it. I would argue that the straight agenda is more violent and has led to more bloodshed than the gay agenda could ever. You know what I'm saying? And I say that as a straight person that doesn't understand history. I don't think it's too many gay nations that went to war or went to battle. You feel me? I don't know of too many institutions that structure themselves in opposition to being straight. Even within the LGBTQ community, they make spaces for allies. So a lot of times it be capped when people try to say, they trying to turn us gay or it's trying to be a war. Just the black man washing the dishes. The takeaway from this dialogue while I'm rinsing the dishes and getting these last little old things that I ain't, you know what I'm saying, left in the door. Because, you know, you got the stragglers in the sink always, right? The biggest takeaways from this dialogue I want you to take is that we have to think about the multiplicity of blackness and black people in more ways that are not just straight and cisgender. Got a homeboy named Caden, trans man, got 2 kids. You see what I'm saying? And it's just like when you think that straight people corner the market on being able to reproduce, not only is it smart, you really start to exclude those other ways that people are able to come into their realities and the other ways that people are raised. You see what I'm saying? Right now in the state of Texas, my home state, you feel me? I love the state to death, but goddamn, they be doing some wild shit. They for all lives mattering, but think that if a parent, you feel me, recognizes their kid trans identity as child abuse, think about what type of messages is being sent to kids. Let's do it together. Oh, oh. Education is elevation, man. I cry, you cry. I play too much, man. Hey, back in the kitchen. Can you see the vision? Same with some of my mind busting suds washing dishes. Can you see the vision? Yeah, that's how we getting it. Back in the kitchen. Can you see the vision? Same with some of my mind busting suds washing dishes. Can you see the vision? You just gotta listen. Hey, I'm washing dishes, but when I was growing up, it was cracking the kitchen. Education is elevation, and anytime you see my face, just know you about to get an upper division type of college course. You ain't got to do no SAT. You ain't got to do no ACT. You ain't even got to do no enrollment. All you got to do is plug in. Education is elevation, theconsciously.com. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe right now. Go and do that. You feel me? And I got a podcast, Chop Up Show. It's available on all streaming podcast platforms. Go check it out as well. Did I mention theconsciously.com and how I do facilitating, workshops, keynote speaking, curriculum development, curriculum design, promotion, advertising, whatever you need. You know what I'm saying? I got you, baby.